Hey everybody, Shay here for another set of reaction videos to Cyberpunk 2077's video library on their YouTube channel, and we got a long one to go through today. I'm actually redoing the intro for this because I started kicking it off. It was still moving a little bit too slow for me. I actually watch videos at times 2.7 speed. That's like my standard pace. When I end up watching things at normal speed, I feel like everyone is like, it's like, I don't know, I just feel like everything is going in slow motion. I feel like I've entered some sort of bullet time or something like that. So I'm going to put this to at least 2 times speed, and I will tap my way through the video. All right, so far it's a lot of repeated footage. Now hold on. All right, I take it back. I'm not going at times 2 speed anymore because we're actually seeing some gameplay footage, so I'm rolling it back. Sorry about all that. We got this from the other video. We got some clips reused from prior gameplay stuff. Oh man, that city. It's gonna be crazy. Yeah. Yeah. We got all of this already. Perfect. You can hack that thing, take this guy out, do some solo play. Okay, questions. I want some questions and answers. They're literally replaying the videos that we just went through on the prior videos, so I'm just really quickly going through this. I mean, already at 11 minutes in. This is literally the stuff we just reviewed on the prior video. I'm just talking about the different play styles and characters. There's the unboxing videos, so a bunch of mixes. Here we go. 15 minutes in.
Who they're listening to.
Hey, I'm Miles. I'm one of the level designers at CD Projekt Red.
Hello, I'm Pavel, and I'm a lead of the Quest team.
So I'm Philip, and I'm one of their Quest designers.
Let's get started because the last demo we saw took place in Watson. This time we're in Pacifica. They're very different, and that's super important for Night City,
Watson?
that it feels different. So what do you need to consider
from the trailer or from the level design itself?
We are diving right into it.
Yeah.
From a level design point of view, for us it's really important to create these districts, the 6 ones that we have in Night City, to be as different as possible without making it unbelievable, right? We want to enhance the variety in the game, right? It would be kind of boring just to have a lot of the same throughout.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy gets to change the environment and stuff, right? So they have to treat the city like environments.
Kind of variety,
yeah,
and
makes sense.
That's actually a really fun creative process as well. And secondly, we need it as a navigational tool. That means that when you as a player move around the city, you should know where you are simply by looking around. And thankfully, there's a lot of lore that we can sort of dissect and make our own that helps us around. But we also add our own sort of twists to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? So in terms of Pacifica, we know that it's pretty.
Oh, cool. So they're going to go into
place, if I can say so.
Yeah.
And
I guess they're bombing.
What I
they
mean
get to they're going to be talking about each district. That'd be cool. I mean, I wouldn't mind if you did that.
Right?
But no, maybe just differentiating the two.
History that caused it to basically fall into disarray.
This is the Haiti one. I'm going to get in the lore.
Initially meant to become the city's crown jewel of
the animals and.
But clearly, as you can see from the footage, that actually
something else with the
Sasquatch.
Forget.
And now you'll actually see things like burning cars on the streets, right? And it's very deserted. So much unlike Watson that we showed last year, where the streets are bustling with people.
That's the light one. Okay, that's the first trailer.
Because it's simply a very dangerous place that you don't want to really go if you don't have to. And again, that's one of the
So that's where I'm gonna be most of the time. No.
From the rest of Night City,
probably
you'll actually notice that, right? And of course, all the destruction going.
I kind of know where I'm starting. I kind of have an idea of it.
I mean,
I know there's like 3. We'll see. We'll get to that video. I'll talk about it.
As it were.
I could be turned around.
What kind of things are exclusive to Pacifica? Because you don't want people to just come for the quest and then leave and that's it. You want people to keep coming back to this district. So what can people
explore, check all the alleyways, drive around. Bike or car, doesn't matter.
What I meant when I said like it's a very fun process to think of these kind of things, because the sort of characteristics that we give the district directly sort of birth the things that you can find there, right?
Headcanon.
Amongst the destruction.
Fanfic, headcanon,
right. Pacifica is inhabited by a large Haitian community, and each district sort of has a kind of dominant gang who has taken over there. In the case of Pacifica, that would be the Voodoo Boys. And unlike the Maelstromers that we saw last year, the Voodoo Boys are actually deeply ingrained within the community that lives there, and they actually they're not your typical sort of street gang in the sense that they don't really bring a lot of gunpowder to fight themselves, but they actually specialize in cyberspace. They're obsessed with the mysteries of cyberspace. They've sort of almost made it their own religion, if you will. And they have the reputation of being the best netrunners.
I like where that's going. I like where it's going.
City. And it's a very cool
thing
that V,
it's like it's like the new Magic, right?
Interact with in several
Hell
ways.
yeah.
Wow,
Okay.
cool,
Get behind that.
And I mean that's just.
I said I was gonna tap through this, but I'm like intrigued. It's gonna be long. Maybe they'll put like cuts.
All of these things together, the culture,
the other trailers and stuff
visuals,
in the middle of this.
the architecture, and the history really will be very distinct to the district.
And when looking at the stories that we'll be telling in this exact district, we always make sure that it always fits. Haiti is actually completely flooded, and they have left it. They arrived to Night City to build the district that Miles just talked about, and they were left out at the moment when the corporations withdrawn all the founding.
The process of this is just—it's so fascinating to me. Like I'd be so awesome.
There, and they.
It has to be collaborative, you know, but
the seed, they become the seed.
Imagine
for
having
the
like
stories that we're telling there. So as a player,
coming up with all these ideas, but someone has to design this stuff. Someone has to build the quest design. They have to build the script, the characters, like to say things that actually ingrain inside the area you're in, so it actually keeps giving back to the setting.
We do give the player a lot of different tools to use as he goes through a level, and that makes designing these things quite complex. You know, just to sort of understand our mentality when we approached our level designs and the way we do our encounters, right? And the example was rather simple. The goal was for a player to go from one room to another, but the main way to go from that one room to another would be sort of like a door.
Script.
And be it through like a scanner or a device, it doesn't really matter for the example. Actually, going through this door would ultimately result in the player losing his weapons, but the task was to actually kill a person on the other side of that door, right? Now, we use this sort of example to sit down and think, okay, how will we do this in all these kind of different play styles, right? So perhaps, you know, one way would be to, you know, convince a guard that would be stationed next to the door, just let you through, right? Through like sort of like a social kind of path, or you could take the guy out, take, I don't know, like a pass that would enable you to go through the door without actually letting go of your gun. Maybe if you are invested as a melee character, it actually doesn't really matter to you. You just walk through the door, and
that's
then
why I love melee. It's dangerous in
like
shooters,
pile of blood.
But that's the benefit.
Or
you can lose your stuff. You can be in compromised situations.
Find a way
start
to
flailing.
The network to disable the device, right?
That's crazy though, man. The amount of like options
allowing you to move through, and
oh
then use your guns on whatever your target is. Maybe as a kind of
where's the scenario where you don't have your guns anymore, but you need to kill someone?
Jump out of the window onto
just
the window,
I guess.
double jump to the, you know, like a balcony, and then enter through the window.
Oh my gosh!
And the list goes on and on with examples that we try to come up for this kind of door. And it's sort of, again, it's just to showcase how we sort of think about these levels, right? As you know, putting in a problem that the player has to solve, and we give them a lot of different tools and possibilities to solve this issue or bypass it in their own way. And that is how we're hoping to really create an experience for the player that they feel inherently is their own, right? They came up with a solution given the systems.
That's what's gonna hook me, man.
Because
you create a character concept, you just roll with it, and then everything seems to adapt with your ideas of that character, and then it just makes you more and more immersed and hooked into the game.
Because, you know, as an example, on the Wild Hunt, we were already working with very non-linear stories. But now we also have this non-linear gameplay approach. And for us, it was always really important to have these choices and consequences. And we did them in the story. You know, anything should matter somehow. But now we can also say, okay, players have all of these different choices to solve a situation. So of course, there should also sometimes be some consequences. And not just on the gameplay side, how you solve it, but of course, you know, the story should react to it. Do I just run into this room and kill a few guys, or do I, you know, choose a super different approach? Sometimes this can now open up a completely new way to go through a quest. So, you know, it actually, I think it added to this whole layer of non-linearity. It added quite a few, let's say, more things we have to do. But the thing is, it is a challenge for us, but it's actually a really fun challenge. It's actually really cool to come up with all these ideas.
It's cool to see that they actually enjoy this level of dedication to the quest design and the layers
quest designers, of course,
non-linear
Pavel, as
solution building.
Them again. Directors play them, and also, you know, most importantly, QA plays our quests a lot, and our QA team has really, really good ideas. So, you know, they always think, okay, what do I think right now? What would I want to do in this situation? And then we often communicate, and this is how some of the best ideas are actually created, just through going through these missions over and over again, and always finding some new ways to approach them and some new ways to, you know, find interesting consequences, what to happen afterwards.
And that, I think, sort of ties up with a whole philosophy of a game, which is the freedom. And we have a freedom on a story layer, and maybe I don't want to talk about it too much, not to spoil it, but but it ties up with the gameplay very well, with like the way how the levels are constructed, and with branching gameplay, as Philip just explained, because player has freedom playing the game. You build your character the way you want, and you play the way you want, and you want the player to feel this choice, you know, that he's doing depending of, you know, how skills he's assigning, what weapons he or she is picking, and all that, and it all comes together as like, you know, fulfilling this ultimate like cyberpunk fantasy.
So in the demo we obviously saw the bike. There was a little mention of the heavy armor car, but can you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of vehicles that will be in Cyberpunk 2077?
I can tell you a little bit about it. So there's of course many different kinds of vehicles.
Oh
dear. We want to create a real city, city that makes sense in the year 2077.
It's another layer.
So there will be all
it's gonna
kinds
trap
of vehicles. And of course there's also, you know, society is very different, so
we
also have different. But yeah, you know, we try to strive for variety. So, you know, we also look like what are the kinds of vehicles players would want to have in a cyberpunk game. So, you know,
do I get a garage?
Cars, we of course also have bikes. Like
where do I put all my vehicles?
Jaiba Kusanagi here, one of my favorites. It's a very cool bike. And
they're going to showcase
some, let's say, surprise vehicles that are still to be seen in Cyberpunk that I don't want to spoil here. But I would say something very special that's also dear to my heart.
Now I'm really intrigued.
But of course,
a horse.
Also, let's say
this be a Witcher horse.
Super highest echelon of people in that city. They also have access to AVs, so flying cars, which is something that you as a player,
like the
you're not part of that world.
Is that like Care motorcycle?
Through specific story moments, you might get to, you know, ride in them sometimes. So, you know, we want to give you a few different experiences. But yeah, you can also, of course, you know, you have your garage where your apartment is, so you can also have your own vehicle that you store, that you can call to yourself. So you know, you can't call your vehicle Roach if you want to. It's all up to you.
You can name your vehicle.
It will be your very own.
I wonder how many of these cars are going to be called Roach now that you've mentioned it.
The thing is, you know, we do not have loading screens while exploring the city. It's a completely seamless place. You can go, you know, wherever you want. And of course, Night City is a very dense place, so there's lots to see on your way.
How do you design this, man?
As with all things, we want to give players a choice. So of course, there's the option to fast travel. But the thing is, actually, the way we're designing the city, we actually kind of feel like, even when we're playing it ourselves, that fast travel is often just...
Oh, man.
When I play the game, I don't want to fast travel. I want to explore the city, because we actually try to give you so many interesting
I'm always at odds with fast travel, because I want it. At a certain point of gameplay, I need it. I want it, because it's disorienting me. But then there's games where I'm like, I really should be going to a fast travel right now, but I'm not for some reason. I'm just running through the woodlands.
But of course, you know,
not even calling a horse.
The thing is also, we actually have
it's always such a balance.
That actually are planning out Night City and, you know, how the traffic would work in that city and how it would actually make the most sense, how a city like that would actually grow organically, and, you know, how it would flow, how the traffic would flow through there. So it's actually really interesting to also just have that part of game now as part of, you know, Cyberpunk 2077.
I've got to go do that first. I can't go and do this until I've done that one over there. What will we be finding?
So in Night City, you actually really
that the game can take over 200 hours. So that's what you can find.
Example, most districts have a so-called fixer, like
with the street stories and all the other content. We're essentially sort of giving him like our Witcher 3 side quest treatment, in the sense
like
that
it's already spiraling into
tasks can be fun
ideas
and exciting if we pack them up in a cool
and potential distractions and
world, right? We can use these street stories to expand further on how life in Night City and the world of Cyberpunk in general works. And sometimes this might even be a better staging ground than the main story itself, right? Where
Why?
just like, hey,
because I can.
let's see how everything.
There goes at least a few months.
We can pick. I mean, what are they, and how do they
Easily
actually affect the gameplay?
So you can be a street kid, you can be a nomad.
I know they go into
you can
this
be a
deeper
now,
in the
each of
most
them
recent
actually
drops. I'm
defines the
fairly
beginning
certain.
of the story for the player.
Saw
So
one
you
video that
start
was.
in a completely
I thought there
different
were
way
four.
than other
No.
life path.
Three?
And you are slowly introduced into
five?
that story. You know different people. You're in a completely
three.
different
Three.
place in life. You're in a different place in Night City, and your story slowly, you get involved into that whole thing with Chip and Johnny Silverhand, and eventually, you will land there. But you actually start off being a completely different person. Now, what is important with that is we actually take that through the whole game, and you as a player, you can actually associate yourself with like nomads. You can associate yourself with a corporate
nomad
people, or
all the
you
way.
can be a part
Pretty
of the
sure.
streets, and it's really
Pretty sure.
up to you. What path you want to pick through the main story, and we did our best in the quest team to like support all those like three, I would say, main ways to
It's
go
another
through
layer
the story.
that they have
And
to
of course,
consider when
player can,
designing, I think.
mix and match anytime, any way. It's something like the way how we to make sure that the player can role play their character.
Hell
to
yeah.
Become that person.
Hell
And,
yeah.
In the demo that we have
I gotta
shown
come
in
up with an
recording,
idea, man.
You can see this moment when you choose that character.
Like,
that you're
just the bare
becoming,
minimum up front
later.
to help
And the
guide
characters
what this
that
could
you are
be,
meeting
because
in the main
otherwise
story, they are also
I'm gonna get
representing
overwhelmed with
those different groups.
the decisions kind
in
of
the
driving
first demo
things
a
as
year
opposed
ago, we have
to
shown Meredith Stout, a person, she is
a foundation
high-class
driving
corporate woman from the military. She
where I
has
wanna
a
go.
lot of power.
One of the nice things is actually also that you're not bound to stick, let's say, with the corporates or with the streets. So as an example,
shit.
I can give an example. I start as a street kid
Really?
game, and I know I have my knowledge, but then I play through the story and I notice like, I kind of like these corporate characters. I like that life. So I can
Damn.
just betray the streets and snuggle up with the corporates. But this is kind of the role-playing freedom we want to
Wow.
get. But as always, this can also have consequences for you.
So anyone who's played the original tabletop version
Could you
of
imagine now you
Cyberpunk
have to,
is
like-
used to the idea of assigning attribute points to create a character.
Then as a player, you can, survive and so on. But then, using that skill, so you sort of like use by learning, like using that skill, you can actually get better, pump up levels there, and you can get different perks. Now, what's interesting there, you can actually give completely different perks to the skill that you have. And here, I think I could use the example of the athletics attribute.
Oh my gosh.
So the athletics is a way for us to move dead bodies. So as a player, you can basically
What?
pick up the dead body that you have just
There's so much granularity.
pick it up and like stuff it into the fridge or in a trash bin. Now, as a player, you normally will slow down when you're moving around with the bodies. But if you have added special perks to your athletic
my
skill,
gosh.
you can now run with the dead body. So because
Oh
you are
my
more athletic,
gosh.
you can do that. And those are like 3 levels of complexity in our character, in building the character we
my
have. You have
gosh.
the attributes, you have the skills, and then you assign perks to it. And those 3 come together to allow you to create your own amazing character that you want to play at.
A lot of people think this is maybe how cool you look, and it's all about the jacket
Yeah,
you're
that
wearing.
too,
but
and the car,
cool
and the
stuff is
vehicles, and
not,
the garage, and-
style-based, is it?
Well, this is Cyberpunk, so being cool is of course very important. But the actual cool stat really means how cool you are under pressure.
Okay,
How
I
much
was
you have
thinking of that when I
control
made the
over your body.
comment
So,
in the previous
are there people
episode.
shooting at me and I'm holding my gun like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It's
Holy
chill.
no,
Are you
cool.
chill?
So this is the kind of thing that cool actually controls. But of course, if you want to play a
Under
character
pressure,
that's actually
okay,
cool, you have your choices, right? You can wear your nice leather jacket, and of course, like in real life, also depends on how you talk to people, and that's of course also the choice of you as a player.
So
In Cyberpunk, the inventory screen is of course where we manage our items, right? But most importantly, in Cyberpunk, it's where we also manage our style. And just as Philip just touched on, like it's really important
Make
for
it
us to be
useful
able
for me,
you
man.
to
Don't
be
make
able
it-
to realize your
don't
character.
don't
And that,
bloat it
of course,
to some
comes in the
degree
character
where
creation, but also the way you
I
dress
get
your
overwhelmed in
character,
inventory.
right?
Although
We're pretty much aware that
depends
there's sort of this
what the gameplay loop
in
is
most
on it.
RPGs, there's this common sort of disconnect between the stats on an item and the looks.
Mm.
While we can go into details here, let's just say we're aware of this sort of, conflict, I guess, of interest sometimes. So we're looking into how you
Transform.
would be able to make your character still look cool despite having the best stats of an item, right?
Just modify the
goes
items to look
show
like
that
other things
that
and
is
stuff
really
like that.
important to us. And of course, you know, the whole role-playing aspect goes even further because we'll have some customization options, not only for the way you look.
Imagine inventory screen, right? So if you see the player there, you have a slot. So normally in, like, let's say fantasy game, you would equip a armor, right? Or you would equip, I don't know, a leg piece or something. Like right now here, you can actually replace that with a cyberware, right? So you can get your legs replaced to your cyber legs, right? And those can give you different skills, like let's say double jump. But then as a player, you can upgrade actually those and let's say enhance them in a way that they give you something special to it. So for instance, you can actually make them jump in a way that they do not emit that much sound, and they become like a really stealth tool.
Oh my gosh.
So because of that, you can traverse in a quiet way through the location.
What ideas do you
have?
have?
This is how you actually upgrade your character.
They
You
just start
go over
developing
your
it.
body and replace whatever.
Or I mean, you do it live as you
And,
find pieces you like.
the
This would be, I mean, that's fine
help you
too.
out with that when you have to install those core
But can
pieces
I
of
build
cyberware,
exactly
like, for
what I
instance,
imagined?
the Raven control system that allows you to control the flathead. But there are also other pieces that you can do on your own. And on top of that, as a player, you can also find pieces, small pieces called shards. And those, if you slot into your slot, you can actually, they give you a power of a given cyberware so you can try it out. So as a player, you can experiment a bit, you know, and see how it would be if I would have installed, you know, some special piece of cyberware in my body. And that allows the player to, you know, to see stuff, to figure it out, to build their character the way they want.
Wow.
Okay, so
So I think using net running skills gives you lots of, let's say, opportunities to be very creative in how you play the game. So I can just give a few examples. So
break the game.
Points. And access points are, you know, in the world of Cyberpunk, they can control all the different devices in the area, which of course as a netrunner is pretty useful because you can hack that access point, and if you successfully do that, you can now use quick hacks. So you can actually from a distance take over different devices, like as an example a camera. You can do many different things with it. Look through the camera and have a completely different view, or just, you know, turn it off if it's in your way. And of course, you know, you can take over a turret and make it fight for you, or you can do many different things. You know, we also try to come up with nice custom things. So, you know, depending on where you are, let's say if you're in a gym where there's some nice boxing robot, of course, you know, maybe you can do some fun things with that. So I think as a netrunner, it's always lots of fun to use.
Take it over and play through it, or
as an
just
example, if
make
I
it
would
do that.
use lots of netrunning skills, it's also really useful to use lots of cool
wind her
skills
up.
that make me really good at stealth. So I'm, you know, really under control. So netrunner can be really good at, you know, also using distractions. Like if there's a vending machine, just make it spit out some drinks, and then of course, you know, some people might look after that. But the thing is, a netrunner isn't, you know, just a stealth character. There's also cool, aggressive netrunning abilities, because, you know, we always want to give you the choice of how to play. So we have your nanowire cyberware, which is really good at hacking enemies from a distance and then actually taking over their cyberware. So, you know, most people in this world have cyberware in their body, so just like access points, very good times for netrunners. So you can then control that cyberware and also do some nice things, like, you know, as an example, hack someone's cyberware in their hand and make them do some things they might not want to have happen to them. But the thing is also the nanowire, of course, it's a wire, it's nano, it's very, you know, sharp, so you can also use it as a weapon or as a whip. And you know, the netrunner can be very effective at using his skills in combat as well. So it's all just, you know, your choice
whip,
as a
melee, potentially.
what about, let's say,
Cyberpunk, it is a very violent world, but you're role-playing your character. You can choose to play the whole game without killing a single person.
What?
And of course, you know, we're always saying this
I
should
don't
also
believe
have an
it.
effect on the story. So certain characters, you know, in a quest might ask you, you know, yeah, please do this thing for me, but, you know, don't make too much trouble. And of course, you know, you don't get a game over if you do a thing that the character doesn't wanna. So, but the story will react to it. And we want to give you that choice. But of course, you know, not only the netrunner is able to do a non-lethal playthrough. Every player, however you want to skill your character, you're able to do it somehow.
Recording for a moment, you know, when V is like just, you know, like killing everything on her way with this very heavy gun, you of course cannot like take it to your inventory and run around with everything, with it everywhere. But this is the only, like, I would say, build that allows you to do that, right? So this is very, very special. However, if like as a fast solo, you have access to
Look at
lots
the knuckles
of
popping
different
out there.
traversing skills. So as a means of exploration, you can, for instance, do the double jump and access places that you would not have otherwise, right? You can also, you know, like slide around with your katana, or like slide around using nanowire that we have also shown. So you can be built in a completely different ways, built based on the stats that you have picked as a person.
Generally, how we approach this kind of stuff is we have sort of thought. We're thinking of 3 sort of main archetypes of how you can play the game. That would be the netrunner playstyle, right? The solo playstyle, which, as Pavel said, sort of branches into sort of more agile, fast solo, and the more brutish, strong solo character. And then there's the last one, which is the techie. Again, it's just important for us to say that these are just archetypes that you know, help us think about how players might approach any kind of situation. But of course, you'll be able to create any kind of hybrid and just pick the skills that you like in between. And the techie, you know, is sort of a more technically affiliated playstyle, right? Whereas the netrunner is the one that sort of manipulates devices that are active by hacking networks and taking over control. The techie is actually the one that sort of dabbles with the hardware itself and cables and whatever drives machinery, all that stuff. And to add on top of that, we're actually layering our little buddy called Flathead, and he is what we call a spider bot, a kind of very sophisticated piece of military hardware that the player will be able to use when he chooses to you know, invest in drones or a thing. And Flathead is an interesting one because he's a pretty, like, basically like this autonomous robot that listens to your commands, and you can basically send out Flathead to do certain things for you, right? You might be able to send him out to manipulate certain devices. There's a certain customization options that might be tied to a buddy robot, and I hope actually players will get like oddly attached to their
that'd be me,
buddy, right? And
to like the mod,
again, this is like
the drone, and then
sort of layer,
it becomes a pet,
another layer of how you might play the game. And as I said earlier, with us, you know, as you already touched on it, like all of these companies, these gun manufacturers and all that stuff, they actually,
like
a lot of it comes from the actual lore, right? But we're also making sure that, you know, there's a history to everything. That includes the brands and ads that we have in the game. We actually have like a whole team dedicated to just that kind of stuff. And again, it sort of is in line with our philosophy to make sure that everything is rooted in the world, has its reason why it is there, has its history. I think that's really sort of like the secret ingredient to
a big codex
really believe
lore
in the world, that when the player actually goes in, they have this impression
use the word hound there.
This place exists, right?
Let's say you find a broken bottle and you just use it, or you find a knife on the ground and you can use it to fight melee, or you can, as an example, throw it. But you can also specialize in melee weapons, because as we said earlier, maybe you want to play as a cyber ninja, and of course, as a cyber ninja, there's many different katanas that you can actually also specialize in getting really good at. Eventually, it slows down time for you because your reflexes get boosted. So now you have superhuman reflexes. And the way we show it is, of course, time slowing down for you as a player. So imagine you have your katana and you just go into a slide, and then you can aim and like just go through. It actually feels really cool. Like you feel like you have super control. But actually, you can also see, as an example in the demo, how it feels like to be in the receiving end of cyberware like that. Because the animals have reflex boosting cyberware as well. So actually sometimes when they're coming towards you in melee, they zip around really fast.
That's what that is.
Exactly, and this is how it actually feels for enemies. When you have your, you know, slow-mo, this is how they see you moving around. So it can be pretty scary to also find someone who uses the same cyberware you use.
What about you two then? What are your favorite cyberwares that you've seen so far, that you can talk about so far before you get me in trouble?
Oh, I think that at least for me, I think those are gonna be Mantis Blades. I think that's the best one. We have shown how it looks. How it feels when you use them.
It looks cool.
The way you can chop heads and so on. It's something of a it's very poetic, I would say.
You can actually breach into like a squad's internal network by hacking directly into the personal links of enemies. And once you're in the squad network, you can actually use what we call daemon software and to essentially quick hack the cyberware that is attached to people's bodies.
Damn.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can now upload my virus software into these guys to make them do things that they don't necessarily want.
It's magic.
We might
It's magic.
hack their
It's
cybernetic hand to force them to
It's
pull
control.
the pin on a grenade
Wow.
they have at their grenade belt, setting them to a fiery and explosive, but
crazy.
spectacularly looking death. Alternatively,
Wow.
we also have one that you can actually use to basically make enemies finish themselves off, right? They'll shut themselves down. And it's actually really cool because you sort of see them struggling with their hand as well. So it's like it really sells the fantasy of what you're doing, right? And you're basically becoming this cybernetic god as soon as you take over a network. And it really is something that, feels so different from the other play styles that we have. And I really like the sort of level of variety that we offer players when it comes to that. And I think that ultimately, and pardon me for being a bit buzzworthy about this, but like this will really make each playthrough very unique to players, right? Not only the way you play it, the way you interact with the world, the way you talk
It has
to
to, like,
people,
it's
all
inevitable.
that
Like
kind
the
of
amount of
stuff.
layers
Like,
that they've
even
already
if you
talked
look at
about
all the
just
little
here again, they've
choices that
confirmed, and
accumulate through the game, no playthrough will basically
the layers
be
of the
like
build,
another.
the history
And,
matters, your
and
perks matter
apparently
on
they
your
also feel very
skills
differently
and
depending on what
attributes.
kind
Like,
of, character you want to play. And I guess
jeez.
that would be the less obvious.
It's like
one,
what kept
because
me in
as a
City of
net runner,
Heroes
you'll
for so
always be
long,
sort of
or
having
World of
your
Warcraft to
cyber
some
deck,
degree, but
because
City of
otherwise you
Heroes,
could
man.
not be a net
That's
runner.
exactly how it felt. Let me just make characters all the
I
time.
think I've
New
mentioned
characters all the
before
time.
I caught up with Mike Pondsmith at Gamescom to ask him, who are the Voodoo Boys and who are the animals?
Hi, my name is Mike Pondsmith, and I'm the guy who killed your Cyberpunk characters. And today I'm going to talk to you about two very important things. I'm going to talk to you about animals, and I'm going to talk to you about the Voodoo Boys. So let's take the Voodoo Boys. When I created them many, many years ago, I was looking at kind of a really interesting idea, which is what we would now call cultural appropriation. What happens when somebody comes in and tries to adopt a culture that they know little or nothing about and does it really badly. But one of the great things about having a few years is that you get a chance to do some redos. And one of the best ones is what we have with the Voodoo Boys now. The Voodoo Boys in 2077 are really Voodoo Boys. They inherited the name, but it was sort of a natural fit. They were coming from Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they were the real thing. And they managed to take a lot of the elements of their original culture and meld it into the world of 2077 to bring that cyberpunk vibe into a very old and respected culture. So they're a gang, but they're not really. They're more of a cultural phenomenon. They're more a way of cultural exploration. And I think it's really cool because it shows us a side of the cyberpunk future that we normally wouldn't see. On the other hand, they're the animals. Way, way back in my dark, dank past, I used to lift. Don't anymore, but I used to. And I would see guys like the animals in the gym I went to. Guys who lived to get strong, and get really strong, and get really strong. The animals are like those guys. They're in it to basically build themselves up and become the tigers of their particular urban jungle. They want to be big, they want to be bad, and they want you to fear them just because they exist. And it's really easy to fear a guy who blots out the sun when he walks by you. But the animals are very simple. They have an ethos: get big, lift, get strong, lift. So unlike the Voodoo Boys, who have a culture, the animals have a thing. And contrasting that is interesting, because in 2077, you get a chance to see that not every gang is the same as every other gang, and what motivates them depends on the people you meet on the street. Check it out. This is Mike Pondsmith saying, I'm still here to kill your Cyberpunk character.
No.
We hope
Right.
you enjoyed our deep dive into
I'll just make another one.
Cyberpunk 20.
All right, so I don't know how much of that I left in. I had to cut around some of it because it was long, and I couldn't watch it at 2x speed. I had to like pay attention because there's some really cool stuff being said in this deep dive video Q&A. If you haven't watched it, I do recommend watching it all yourselves. It was a lot of good information. So hopefully I kept some tidbits in there, just my reactions to some of the key parts. And yeah, it still didn't help me pick what kind of character I want to play. It's sort of still taking me down. Now it's kind of getting closer to taking me down the path of what I think would be cool to play, but they always give me more information. Like the gun history was kind of intriguing because, man, I'm going to go through like codex dives. There's of course the arm blades. Like I think the Mantis style stuff is kind of cool. It does take me back to that JD Blade character that I made for Shadowrun, and I mean they're saying stuff about the speed player, the double jumping, the silent, the ninja-esque kind of things. I think there's like improvised weapons, which was something that I used as that character, and I'm like, okay, well that I guess is in the game. You could just pick things up and start fighting with them, and there's like the slow-mo stuff. Anyways, so there's a bunch of cool stuff that is kind of, there's the drone. I did make a character that was also a drone user, and so I feel like I'm still seeing options. And this really, I made a comment while playing, I probably kept that in, but the whole City of Heroes idea, like when I used to play City of Heroes, and I just got to a point where I just make new character builds, new ideas, and then I just play them out because I like the idea of the character and I wanted to see how they felt inside the world of that game. I feel like that's kind of what I feel for Cyberpunk 2077. There's a game here to play, there's a main story to play, but it feels like a realized world right down to the manufacturers. Like they made a comment about the history of the manufacturers, like that's all over the place, including the ads. Like everything is integrated into the history of this world. That's a lot of crazy depth and lore that could definitely get me to sink in and then just enjoy existing in the world, like playing in the world regardless of the character. Of course, I hope to stick to the one character and at least get through one playthrough. But man, I'm starting to see like this is gonna spiral into like and just playing, building and playing new character builds and trying them out. And this has a great opportunity for massive derailments. Hopefully this channel can keep me on track and stay to that one course and really focus on the one character making it to the end. So anyways, I'll be back in the next suite of characters where we're going to go back to these smaller videos here along the way. And yeah, I'll catch you there. Don't forget to explore, engage, and inspire, buddy. Peace.